This lesson is on point slope form. Students will be able to write and graph linear equations in point slope form. Key vocabulary is point slope form. There's the benchmark, and the essential question is what information does the point slope form of a linear equation reveal about a line? Point slope form is y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1, where m is going to represent the slope of your line and x1, y1 is going to represent the point. So in this problem, your slope is given to you as -1 and the other point is given to you as 3, -2. So if you had to write an equation with that slope and that point, you would start out with y minus whatever your y1 is, in this case is -2, is going to equal your slope, in this case is -1, times x minus your x1, in this case is 3. The only other thing to simplify is if you see two negatives sitting right next to each other, they come together to form a positive. So for the first example, a line with a slope of a half passes through the point 3, -2. What form can you use to write the equation of the line? Well, you know two different forms. We know our slope-intercept form from last lesson, y equals mx plus b, and we know point slope form, which is y minus y1 times m times x minus x1. So looks like we have a point and we have the slope. So I am going to use point slope form to write the equation. So again, the point is going to represent your x1, y1. So y minus -2 is going to equal your slope of a half, x minus 3. Only other thing to do is if you see two negatives sitting right next to each other, you're going to rewrite them as a positive. So y plus 2 is going to equal a half times x minus 3, and that's our final equation written in point slope form. Example 2, what is the equation of the line passing through these 2 points? So here, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the slope. So remember the formula for your slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, where your first point is going to represent your x1, y1, and your second point is going to represent your x2, y2. So here, y2 first, which is 3, minus our y1, which is 1, over x2, which is 2, minus x1, which is -4. In our numerator, 3 minus 1 is going to give us 2. In our denominator, 2 minus -4, those two negatives are going to come together to form a positive, and you'll end up adding 2 and 4 to give you 6. We'll then reduce this fraction by dividing by 2. So we end up with 1/3 for our value for our slope. Your second step to write the equation is you're going to use the slope and 1 point to write the equation. So the slope we found to be 1/3, and you're going to pick a point. I am going to use the first point I see, -4, 1. That's going to represent my x1, y1. So in the equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus 1 is going to equal 1/3 x minus -4. We see two negatives next to each other, which is going to form a positive, and y minus 1 is going to equal 1/3 x plus 4. Now you're going to pause the video and try to write the equation of the line passing through these two pair of points on your own, and then unpause to check your solution. So again, the first thing we want to do is we want to find the slope using the slope formula. We want to label our points. We want to plug those points into the slope formula. So y2 is 3 minus my y1 of negative 1. x2 is negative 3 minus my x1 of 2. In my numerator, 3 minus negative 1 is 4. In my denominator, negative 3 minus 2 is going to give you negative 5. So your slope ends up being 4 over negative 5. Second, you're going to use the slope. And you're going to pick a point. And you're going to write the equation in point slope form. So y minus 2, not 2. See, mistakes happen. Y minus x1, probably because I don't have my points labeled. So let me go ahead and do that now. My point labeled. So x1, y1. So y minus my y1, which is negative 1, is going to equal my slope, 4 over negative 5, x minus 2. Have a negative and a negative, so I'm going to rewrite this as y plus 1 is going to equal 4 over negative 5, x minus 2. That's my final equation written in point slope form. Next, what is the graph? Okay, so in order to determine the graph, we know how to identify the slope because the slope is in front of our parentheses is negative 2 over 3. But how do we identify our x1 and our y1? Remember, the general form for point slope form is y minus y1 is going to equal m times x minus x1. So if I rewrite the equation so that I have these minuses, I can see what my y1 is and what my x1 is. So y minus 3, I can clearly see that I have a y1 of 3, just 3, not negative 3, is going to equal my slope of negative 2 over 3, x minus, the only way to get a positive here is if x1 was a negative 1. And now we see what our y1 is. Now we see what our x1 is. We can go ahead and identify the point as negative 1, 3. Now to graph. First, plot the point. So I'm at negative 1, positive 3. The point is here. Second, use the slope. So remember, slope is rise over run. And in this case, we have a slope of negative 2 over 3. So if our rise is negative 2, we're going to go down 2. And our run is positive, so we're going to go to the right 3. So from that point, we're going to drop down 1, 2, and then to the right 1, 2, 3. And here's our other point. And we are going to draw a line through both of those points. And we have the graph of the equation. So go ahead and pause the video, see if you can do this one on your own, and then unpause the video to check your solution. Okay, the slope is the easiest to identify because it's just sitting in front of the parenthesis as 1 over 2. And then the equation, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it. So y minus -2 is going to equal a half. There's no way to rewrite x minus 3, so we'll leave it as that. You see that your x1 is just 3, and your y1 is -2. So 3, -2. So first, plot the point. Three, -2. Second, use the slope. Remembering that slope is rise over run. And we have a slope of 1 over 2. So from that point, I'm going to go up 1 and then go to the right 2. And I'll end up here. And this is the graph of the equation. An event facility has a banquet hall that can hold up to 250 people. The price for a party includes the cost of the room rental plus the cost of a meal for each guest, not desk. Marissa is planning an event for 75 people. She has budgeted $1,200 for the party. Will that be enough? Well, we have a graph that's going to represent the total cost based on various numbers of guests. So with that, first we have to determine which form of a linear equation is more useful. Now remember, the two forms we have is y equals mx plus b and y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Well, in this question here, you have various points. So I would actually use point slope form because all I need a point and I need the slope in order for me to write an equation. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the slope, which is going to represent the cost of each meal based on number of guests, of course. So x is here, represents our number of guests, and y is going to represent the total cost. So I am going to choose two ordered pairs. So 1 is here for our number of guests is 50. And the total cost is $725. And my other point that I'm going to choose is here, where the number of guests is 100 and the cost is $13.25. Remember your slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and you want to label your points so you don't make a mistake like I did earlier in the notes. So here is my x1 y1. Here is my x2, y2. So in my numerator, y2, which is 1325, minus y1, which is 725, all over x2, which is 100, minus x1, which is 50. So in our numerator, 1325 minus 725 is going to give us 600, all over 50. 600 divided by 50 is going to give us 12 bucks for every one guess. That's what the slope represents. Second, you're going to use point slope form to write the equation. So remember, with point slope form, you need a point and you need the slope. We just found our slope to be 12. And the other point, doesn't matter which one you use. I am going to use the first point, which is 50, 725. So y minus y1 is going to equal m times x minus x1, remembering that you're replacing x1 and y1. So y minus 725 is going to equal your slope of 12, x minus 50. And that is our final equation written in point slope form. Next, we have the concept summary, okay, which just sums up point slope form. You have two different equations, giving you two different examples of how those equations are graphed. And then you have your exit ticket, which you're going to try on your own.